Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just took a quick look at all those quarterfinal games, got a little bit carried away, but very excited for those games. I feel like we got at least two that I think are going to be absolute classics in Oregon, Ohio State, as well as Notre Dame, Georgia. Will be really interesting to watch what Gunnar Stockton has as that first start as a Georgia Bulldog. Going to be a lot on his plate, especially against that defense. But we'll jump into those in a little bit more detail next week, so be on the lookout for that. But we got to talk about some major bowl games. I want to make sure I give some love to some of these bowl games that I absolutely love coming up this weekend, and we'll start with literally my favorite one of the entire bowl season, Georgia Tech Vanderbilt. This one's going to be awesome. It's two quarterbacks that I think everyone has come to love throughout this year, and Haynes King and Diego Pavia, especially Diego Pavia over the last little bit. Two beautiful offenses called by Tim Beck and Buster Faulkner, two of my favorite offenses in the entire country, and then two programs that really feel like they're starting to build. Obviously, they've been a little bit behind because some academic rigors at some other schools don't necessarily translate to what Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt have to deal with on the recruiting trail, but at the end of the day, it feels like Brent Key, it feels like Clark Lee have these teams moving in the right direction, and it'll be really interesting to watch what these teams can do in 2025. I feel like we'll be talking about Georgia Tech quite a bit throughout the offseason. This is a very interesting team that I think could make some noise in the ACC going into 2025. But for this game in particular, Georgia Tech does have a better run offense and defense, a little marginally on the defensive side of the ball, a little bit bigger a gap offensively in that department, and the Vandy offense just in general has really tapered since that Bama game. They haven't scored over 24 since that day. They're going to need more than that in this one. If I had to imagine, this Georgia Tech offense feels like it's rolling right downhill. It feels like an offense that they just feel like they know exactly where everything needs to be at every second throughout the game. And Haynes King has a huge, huge part in that because so much of what they do comes down to, can he make the right read? Can he hand the ball when he absolutely needs to? Can he pull it and go off tackle when he needs to? There are a lot of different things that are put on these two quarterbacks, and they've handled it really, really incredibly well throughout this year. Georgia Tech's just one of those teams that I feel like has kind of been rising throughout the end of the year, while Vanderbilt has been tapering just a little bit. But both these quarterbacks will be back in 2025 for their team, so won't be the last time that we get to see these guys in those jerseys, and it'll be really, really fun to see how that kind of unfolds. Obviously, Haynes King has become a fan favorite really over the last couple of years over there at Georgia Tech, and has been a very, very special player down the stretch of the season. He'll also finally be fully healthy. He wasn't even fully healthy in that Georgia game. We saw what he was able to do. He should be much, much closer to being healthy in this one, and the guy right next to him, Jamal Haynes, is going to be huge as well, as is Cedric Alexander on the other side for Vanderbilt. We've talked about this a number of times when we talked about Vanderbilt games, but that north-south run is everything in both these offenses, really. If you can get downhill, if you can run inside zone, duo, all of those types of things in the A gap and B gap, if you can run those very effectively, everything else works. You get the tight end that leaks out on the beneath. You get the read option that you very badly need. You get the power off that. There's so many different things that you can play around with if you can get that north and south game run game going. So those running backs, we talk so much about these quarterbacks, and they are absolutely huge. They are the most important players in this game. Those two running backs are not far behind him, and it'll be interesting to see what this Georgia Tech offense looks like without Eric Singleton, who fills in for that position, how they feel there. Is it Chase Lane that kind of comes in? Is it someone like Bailey Stockton, who came on late in the year? So this is going to be a really awesome game. Two really, really tough, two gritty quarterbacks that have been so much fun to watch. Vanderbilt looking for their first over 500 season since 2016. But I think they're going to fall short. I like this Georgia Tech team in this one. I think they have too much offense for Vanderbilt, and I think this Vanderbilt offense just makes me a little bit nervous. Hasn't quite hit their stride since that Bama game, and I tend to believe it's going to be really hard to hit their stride in this one. I'll take Georgia Tech to win by about 10 points here. I'll take Haynes King to win that duel, and then hopefully we'll get to see these guys again in some capacity next year, because I just love seeing these two offenses, these two guys face off. We got one late at night over there in Las Vegas as well, USC against Texas A&M. This is kind of an interesting game. We have two teams that have been very active in the portal thus far for very different reasons. We have USC that's seen a ton of big-time players walk out the door. We're able to get Keyshawn Silver and Jamal Jarrett and a couple other big-time guys that I think are going to be great players for them. A&M's been absolutely rolling. They've been picking up a ton of really big-time transfers, definitely getting guys that are going to be immediate helps to them in the next year, and it's going to be really interesting to see what these teams are in 2025. But for the time being, this is what the game we're focusing on this game first and foremost. Lincoln Riley against Mike Elko. doesn't get much better than that. It's going to be absolutely incredible to see how Lincoln Riley can attack this A&M defense and vice versa. How can Mike Elko kind of put them off schedule? It is going to be Jaden Mayava making, I believe, his third start, if I'm not mistaken, in a USC jersey. This is going to be the toughest defense that I say that. Notre Dame would probably be the toughest defense that he's faced. So I guess that's not necessarily fair. A&M would be a very, very close second to the defenses that he's faced thus far. But I think the question for USC is, can they stop the run game of A&M? It's been a question for USC really since Lincoln Riley has shown up. Gotten a little bit better this year in a number of respects, but losing some of the guys they've already lost in the portal, it's going to be that much harder. You have Marcel Reed, who's obviously going to be a problem with his legs. Amari Daniels will be playing in this one, so it's going to be a lot to deal with. Now, on the other side, the A&M pass defense has struggled throughout this year, so it could be a little bit of a battle of styles here where you have USC trying to throw the ball all over the yard. You have A&M just trying to run the ball to victory, trying to control the clock and really just kind of milk this thing to a victory. It'll be interesting to see how all of that kind of unfolds. A&M has shown openings towards the back end of the year, and if anyone can find those openings, it's Lincoln Riley. But overall, USC is just trying to right the ship as you head into this offseason. A&M wants to continue to build, get to that 9th win, move on to 2025, and hope that you can make a little bit deeper of a run into that SEC championship realm. But going to be a really incredible game here, and when I look at it, I just have too many questions about USC. I'm really not sure where they're at. I'm not sure where they're at mentally or physically. I'm going to go with A&M. I think they run the ball to a victory, and I think Marcel Reed moves on to his second year as the starter with a lot of hype around him going into 2025. Then we got this one, maybe the best matchup of the entire bowl season from a perspective of just the teams that are in this game. Now, the one right after it, we'll talk about here in a second, gives us a good run for its money, but both teams ended their season on a very bad note. Iowa State got boat raced in the Big 12 championship. No other real way to put it at the end of the day. And then for Miami, missed out on the ACC title for that Syracuse loss and was just right on the outside of the CFP looking in. Obviously, Miami wants to finish this thing strong. It sounds like Cam Ward will be on the roster. It sounds like he will be playing in this game. He wants to finish it the right way. He wants to be able to make a statement, maybe bump himself up a little bit in that NFL draft process, but a lot going into this game. Obviously, it's going to be a really interesting offseason. For Miami in particular, still haven't found that quarterback replacement for Cam Ward in the portal. A lot of different things that they're going to have to kind of weigh throughout this offseason, and it'll be interesting to see, how long is Cam Ward in this game? If they go up by 21 points, do they get Emory Williams in there just to see what they have before they start really attacking the portal in some real ways? So a lot of different things to kind of watch, some subplots to watch throughout this game, but Iowa State should be able to find some holes in this Miami back end. They really struggled down the stretch of the season, especially against Syracuse, and Iowa State maybe not quite as prolific as Syracuse is throwing the football, but absolutely has two difference makers on the outside, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. It's going to be a load to deal with. But overall, I think it's going to be really, really fun game. These teams are going to get after each other a little bit. I don't see a ton of defense being played in this one. If I had to imagine, I think Cam Ward's going to put on an absolute show. I think Iowa State has every ability to hang around, but I'm going to pick the best guy on the field. I'm going to pick Cam Ward to go out with the right way to get a big-time win and kind of cement his legacy over there at Miami. Obviously came up a little bit short of what he wanted to this year, but I think he finishes out strong, gets out with a win, and then probably is one of the first names called when you get around to draft night. And then we got the weird tie-in one. We got the Alamo Bowl with technically the Pac-12 and the Big 12 tie-in. Obviously Colorado being that Pac-12 team, but it is a conference game. It is a very interesting conference game, one that Jake Retzlaff called yesterday the People's Big 12 Championship. I wouldn't agree with that, but all respect to you. Definitely going to be a really fun game, and have enjoyed watching these teams immensely throughout the year. It's been incredible to watch what BYU has been able to do with Jake Retzlaff, and on the other side, I don't think anyone picked Colorado to do this. Other than, the people in that building, I don't think anyone picked him to be this good this early. It's been absolutely incredible to watch. Deion Sanders is absolutely someone that I had very, very much on my short list for Coach of the Year. He's been absolutely incredible, and it's going to be the last time we see Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter on a college football field. Enjoy this one, because these are two very, very talented players. Travis Hunter, obviously once-in-a-lifetime type player. Shedeur Sanders, going to be a freak. He's going to be the number one quarterback off the board if I had to imagine in the NFL draft, and it's been a special year for both. They just want to finish it out strong, and you talk about special. That BYU year was absolutely incredible before you got to that Kansas game. Then Kansas, Arizona State kind of shortened that run that could have been really, really fun one. It was going to be incredible to watch BYU just kind of jump in and really take the world by storm after not necessarily getting a lot of love in the preseason, but they fell to Kansas and Arizona State, fell a little bit short, but they got a lot going for them in this game. Can Colorado keep up with BYU's physicality on the offensive line? LJ Martin's a plenty talented running back that will take advantage of openings if you give them. Colorado's going to have to be stout up front, especially without a couple of the big-time guys that have left, including Nikhil Hill-Green. Dayon Hayes have already left the program, so a lot of different things to watch in this one. But the BYU pass defense will be tested in this game. I think Colorado has two guys that are legends of the program right now. I think they're going to go out in the right direction. I think it could be a little bit dramatic with some of the offense that I tend to believe we're going to see in this game, but I'm going to say Shedeur Sanders puts on a show. I'm going to say Travis Hunter gets a pick just for good measure, and I'm going to say Colorado finishes this thing off with a big-time win, gets to 10 wins, and then a lot of different questions as you head into 2025 around Julian Lewis and around Caden Salter and a million different things around that program, but it'll be awesome to watch it. There's no doubt about that. Every time we get to talk about Colorado football, it's something new, it's something interesting, and I'm sure this game will be no different. But we'll break all those down in time throughout the next, probably early next week, but let's get to all the rest of the bowl games. There's been a ton of stuff happening all around bowl season, and it's been going a little bit haywire. If you know what I'm talking about, congratulations. You watched the Pitt-Toledo game. It was absolutely incredible. We'll talk about it all right after this, so stick with us.